Okay, so let's start. Good evening, fellow Toastmasters and dear guests. My name is Anuj Verma, and I welcome you all to our third episode of Vantage Point, a talk show series by Divisions EFGHN. The purpose of this episode is to introduce Toastmasters platform to the Toastmasters community and non-Toastmasters member through a unique lens. A lens that allows us to see the deeper dimensions of various personal and professional aspects where Toastmasters platform can bring positive change into our lives. Today's episode is all about Toastmasters and artists. And to run this show, I would like to invite a person who has been a Toastmaster since last 3 years. She is a part of Division's EFGHN District 98 Public Relations team and has played crucial role all throughout the year planning and executing various initiatives. She is also a Vice President Public Relations, Gurukul Education Toastmasters, Nagpur. Please help me welcome Toastmaster Gunjan Banarsi. Over to you, Gunjan.
Thank you so much for that wonderful introduction, Toastmaster Anuj. All right. Good evening, everyone present in the meeting. I am Toastmaster Gunjan. To begin with this session as a moderator, let me ask you a very generic question. What is art to you? Well, I will be getting a lot of different answers because art is perceived differently by different sorts of people. It's a subjective term. Even the management schools teach that management is a science as well as art of getting things done through people. To simplify this and put it up into a sentence, if you ask a person that what they came to do in this world, an artist amongst that crowd would say it out loud that I am here to live out loud. And today we have our very mesmerizing two Toastmasters personalities who also are artists in their specific fields. Our first guest today, she has been a Toastmaster since 5 years, immediate past president, currently VP Education of Kuwait Challengers Toastmasters Club, a triple crown holder and inches away from her DTM title. At present, she is an Area 21 Director for Division F District 20. Due to her immense passion and inclination towards cake designing, she ditched the corporate world after being a part of it for 20 years as a departmental secretary and executive assistant and turned her love and passion of cake designing into her profession. Ladies and gentlemen, with a huge round of applause, please help me welcome Toastmaster Priscilla Barito. Welcome, Toastmaster Priscilla.
Thank
How are
you.
you?
I'm doing good. Thank you, Toastmaster Gunjan.
It's wonderful to have
Nice
you over
being
here.
here. Lovely being here. Thank you for that introduction.
Thank you, ma'am. Moving on to our next guest, he has been a Toastmaster from over a decade, a district finalist for all the four contests, past area director in 2015. This Toastmaster is a member of Elan Toastmasters Club. Having a corporate professional background, this Toastmaster decided to do what he does his best in and is achieving exceptional success in his field of stand-up comedy. A TEDx speaker known for his clean comedy, he has performed over 500 over shows across the country, having over 10 million YouTube views on his channel, a mentor to budding comedians, and a passionate Toastmaster and overall a hilarious person. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome with a huge round of applause our second guest, Toastmaster Rajashekhar Mamidana.
Hello, thank you. Thank you so much.
Hello, Rajashekhar, how are you?
I'm good, Ray. How are you?
I'm doing great.
Oh.
Okay, so to begin with, Toastmaster Rajashekhar, I wanted to ask you, what made you take up this particular career?
So what made me take up this particular career is I did engineering, and once you do engineering, I think you can be a comedian. So that's how it works in India, at least. So no, I'm just joking. Actually, I love making people laugh. So when I was in +2, I was a mimicry artist, and every event which would happen in our college, I would just go and perform and make people laugh. And I didn't know that I could make this a profession until I joined MBA in Bangalore. And for the first time, I came to know that okay, there's a profession called stand-up comedy where you just have to go on stage and make people laugh every day. I was like, wow, this is it. I think this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. So that's how I got into this. So because when you make people laugh, it's a great feeling, you know. I'm sure some of you who gave humorous speeches, you would have realized when somebody laughs at your joke, that's a great feeling. And when somebody doesn't laugh at your joke, that's even greater feeling. Because if nobody laughs at your jokes, then you can become an area director or division director, whatever. So you understand. So that's how it works. So I love making people laugh. So that's why I'm a professional stand-up comedian.
It's actually an art, because actually in reality comedy is a serious business, because no, I mean, I have attempted humorous speeches and I have observed that pin drop silence on my punchlines. So
Oh, that's great. And then you can win area director next year, probably.
yes, hopefully. Uh, Toastmaster Priscilla, we would like to know what made you take up this particular career.
Well, as a child, when I was young, I had my aunts around me or rather, I was around my aunts who used to always bake. So it has been since then. And then, of course, after I got married, I got into cake decorating, and that being just a hobby. And just 5 years ago, I said, that's it. Like, okay, I'm done with the corporate world. I don't want to do I don't want to go to work as such, go to the office. I'd rather sit at home in my PJs and bake. So that's what brought me to the world of cake decorating.
Wonderful. So I would like to ask you, Rajshekhar, about your Toastmaster journey. How has been your Toastmaster journey so far, and what is that motivational factor which kept you on in this Toastmasters?
I mean, Toastmasters journey has been fantastic. I love Toastmasters mainly because it gives me something which I always want in life. That is stage time. So I get a lot of stage time from Toastmasters, uh, and that is one thing which I'm really happy about. That is when I joined Toastmasters, I joined because I want stage time, and even today, that is still there. You know, that is still intact. I still want stage time. I don't want anything else. And that is something which I've been. That's the reason I keep attending as many Toastmaster Club meetings as possible. And luckily for me, I got all very good club associations where none of the clubs deny me the speech slot, which is a great thing. You know, so I'm like really very happy that I was able to go to a lot of clubs and perform for different audience. So stage time, that is the only answer. I love stage time.
Wonderful. It's an addiction, they say.
I mean, not just addiction, but I realized that over a period of time, when you go on stage, every stage experience is a different experience, you know. Like you cannot have the same feeling every time you go on stage. Like today, I go on stage, I may feel extremely happy. Next day, I may go on stage, I may feel extremely disappointed. So every stage experience, every time you go on stage, is a different experience, and that is something which is incredible, you know. Same stage, it seems like a same stage, same audience, but every time you go, it's a different experience. And I just want to explore how many types of different experiences this stage can give me, you know. That's something which keeps me going.
So good to know that. Okay, Toastmaster Priscilla, we would like to know your Toastmaster journey, how about your Toastmaster journey, and what keeps you motivated in this field of Toastmaster.
Well, to begin with, I joined Toastmasters because I was actually literally dragged by my husband to attend the meeting. So he attended a meeting, and the next meeting he said, you must come and join and see what Toastmasters is all about. And I was very reluctant, but I joined. And the idea was that we would go together to meetings and come back together. So I said, well, let's do this as a couple. And as I got into Toastmasters, what I realized was well, this is a place where I can speak. Maybe back home, my husband doesn't want to listen to me, but here Toastmasters want to listen to me. So I could just pour out whatever I had to say. And then I also learned that we have only 5 to 7 minutes to pour out what we have to say. But as my Toastmaster Rashika said here, stage time, I could just go there and speak. And as of now, I just long to get stage time. So I look for roles like TMOD. I look for roles for speeches, the maximum amount of time that I can be on stage. And of course, it has built my confidence. That is one thing I like. For me, it has been confidence. I remember when I first spoke, first delivered my icebreaker speech, a very senior Toastmaster DTM came to me and said, you know, your speech was lovely, but I think you should mind your shoes. Don't wear these heels when you're delivering your speeches. And I told him, my dear, my confidence lies in my shoes. I have to wear those heels and deliver my speech. But slowly I gained confidence just knowing that all I need to do is go on the stage and speak. And that's what has kept me glued to Toastmasters, confidence. Over to you.
Wonderful. So here we find one common thing between the two speakers, which is stage time. Okay. Moving on ahead with the question. Okay, so this field which you particularly both of you have chosen is a very uncommon field. And leaving your corporates and then walking a path which is less taken, how did your family and society supported you through this? So first, we'd like to hear from you, Rajshekhar.
For me, it was a family was always supportive. They were like, you do whatever you want to, but don't ask me money. Like that's their purpose. They just don't ask any financial help from us, and I was okay with it because I have so many good friends who can give me money, so I don't have to depend on family for money. But society wise, I think it depends on the kind of people you are meeting on a day-to-day basis. You see, society is not like entire society, right? Like just the basic people you are meeting on a day-to-day basis. And on that note, I think for me, somehow I was always with people who believed in me. I was always with people who told me that, hey, you can be whatever you want to be. That kind of a people I was surrounded with. And I had some great friends, not just in Toastmasters, but off Toastmasters also. I had made some good friends, and they have been of extreme support. And stand-up comedy community itself, if you see, there are a lot of other stand-up comedians who are not Toastmasters. And luckily for me, in Hyderabad, we have a very close knit of stand-up comedians, and everybody's style is different, you see. And because their styles are different, we did not interfere each other, we did not influence each other in a negative way. We were all supportive of each other. So that way, I think I should say that in a way I am very lucky that I got the support from family, and also from the friends whom I had been meeting regularly. I think the key thing is to meet those friends who will tell you to do whatever you want to do, who will just support you no matter what happens. So people are very important.
Indeed, people are very important. But there might be having you might be having some of the other challenges which you have faced from switching over from a corporate qualification and corporate world to a totally different world. So what are the challenges which you overcame?
So the biggest challenge was, if you see, nobody knows what stand-up comedy is in India. Like when I started off in 2013, 14,
Mm.
at that time, stand-up comedy as a profession is non-existent almost. You see, like, so for me, first I have to tell what is stand-up comedy, and then I have to perform what stand-up comedy is. And these are like two different challenges. I can tell you what stand-up comedy is theoretically, and when I perform, you may not like me as a stand-up comedian at all. You see, that was the biggest challenge. And secondly, how do you get audience? You cannot get audience, right? And I remember a lot of times where I have performed for one audience member. There was only one audience member, but I did a show for like 1.5 hours. And so it just depends on how shameless you are, to be very honest. You just so that shamelessness was the biggest challenge for me. Because initially I used to feel bad. I used to feel bad. Hey, what man, only one person is coming. And then later on it transformed to, oh wow, at least one person has come. And luckily for me, what happened was all those people, the lower number of audience whom I had performed for in 2015, 2014, they come back to my shows now, where there'll be like 100 people, 200 people. They'll come to those shows. They after the show they meet me and they tell me, "Hey, Rashika, remember in 2013 I was the only guy in the audience, and you are extremely shameless, and you are still shameless. How are you managing?" I said, "Hey, Toastmasters, man. Once you join Toastmasters, you'll become shameless." No, I did not tell this. I just tell them that you just have to keep going, you know. So like that. So that was the biggest challenge. Irrespective of whatever happens, irrespective of whether you like it or not, whether you want to, you feel like going on stage or not, you have to be consistent. There is no other way. And I was not consistent enough in 2013-14. Um, I started being consistent from 2017 onwards. And from 2017 onwards, if you ask me right now, what is my biggest strength? I would say consistency. I've been extremely consistent from 2017, and I'm trying to be more consistent. So that's the only thing. So that's been the transformation. And once you are consistent, people don't care, you know. All the people who doubted you, that, hey, why is this guy wasting time in a profession which nobody cares? Now, if you keep doing it again and again, then people will realize, okay, maybe this guy is serious. You know, maybe this is what he is. Maybe we should respect him for what he is. And the biggest example is my brother-in-law. You know, my brother-in-law, initially he thought I'm just wasting my time in a profession like this, but right now he gives me as an example to some of my relatives, saying, look at Rashika, he's extremely consistent. Hey, bakwas fellow, what are you doing? But whatever, the point is you have to be consistent. So that's the thing, you know?
Correct. Consistency is the key.
Yeah,
And very nicely, bluntly, but very aptly put up was this shame. You have to be shameless. Yes,
you have to be. That will take you a long way.
indeed. Toastmaster Priscilla, the same way, leaving corporates and then walking into a career which is less taken. How did your family and the society around you support it through this?
Well, for me, I had all the support from my family because they would see me do it every now and then. So baking a cake and decorating was something that I was doing it as a hobby for the family. So in fact, they were the ones who would encourage me, you know, like, yeah, you can actually make cakes and sell them. So it started from there, like, why just make for the family? And then I took that first step while it was still a hobby to get into um, getting some customers for some clients for my cakes. So initially, of course, it was like I need to just dish out some free cakes. Okay, let's let people sample them, and then of course it started building up. And I had the support of my family, my husband, my children. Actually, my son would even help me. You know, like, do you want me to dust the pans? Do you want me to? So it was like that. And then, of course, they would give me challenges like, why don't you make this cake for me for my birthday? So it was very small little things which actually helped me mold myself into taking this as a profession. And then, of course, when I was done, I would say, with the corporate world, and I thought like, okay, that's it now. I just need to do something that I would love to do, rather than having to get up in the morning, get dressed, doll up, and go to office and come back and have to go through all the stuff that goes on in office. I said, let me just sit back and do things from home for myself, for the family. And that's where I started with. Coming to when I decided on leaving corporate world, yes, I did have some eyebrows raised. And that too, you want to go in for baking, cake decorating. What happens to all the skills that you had in the corporate world? And I said, yes, I got on very early on into the corporate world. I made use of my skills. I developed my skills. But then there comes a point when you do want to do something different. And I'm sure everybody goes through this phase. So, well, when my turn came, I just said, done with it. I'm going for something else. And that's how it has been. And I have no regrets. It has been a beautiful journey. The wonderful cakes that I make put a smile on everybody's faces, if not make them laugh, but they do put a smile on everybody's faces. And that's, for me, that is very enriching and that's my reward. So that's what it is, what has been for me with my profession as a cake artist.
Wonderful. So we would like to know what all challenges you came across. I mean, surely there must have been few hardships from moving, switching to a different career. So there must be few challenges. So we would like to know.
Yeah. So talking about challenges, actually what happened was, even before I really ditched my corporate job, I did plan it out. I mean, it was not something like, okay, one fine day, I don't want to, so I just resign and I go and do the baking. I took my time. I really gave it a thought, like, is this really what I want to do? Because I did have questions to myself, like, after I leave and then I don't feel comfortable with baking or cake decorating, what happens? So I gave a thought to all these things, and I did, like, as if going in for an interview, I did ask myself this question: where do you see yourself 5 years from now? And I had to answer that question for myself when I said to myself that 5 years from now, I see myself as a professional cake artist. This is something that I had to remind myself every day when the challenges came up. When challenges came up and when I thought, like, okay, things are going down, I need to tell myself, no, I need to work on it. It's for me that I need to come up with, enhance my skills or learn something new, get into another field. I mean, learn something in the cake decorating field, but something different or something that is a trend. Get to the trend. If I have to say, no, I do only this and I don't do that, that's where I would lose. So these were the challenges for me, because I was not good at everything when it came to cake decorating. So I did have these challenges where I couldn't take up some things because I didn't have the skill, and that meant I had to really work on my skills. So that's about it. Is
Good to know this, ma'am. So what's that one common myth about your profession or field that you want to debunk? So first, let's hear from Rajshekhar.
One common myth which a lot of people will think that for people to make people laugh, you need to have a lot of tragedy in your life. I'm sorry to disappoint you. You can be a happy person and still make people laugh. You don't have to have sadness in your life to make people laugh. So I know a lot of stand-up comedians who are extremely committed, consistent, and organized in their personal lives, and they don't have any tragedies at all. So you can still make people laugh without any tragedy. Comedy doesn't come from pain. Comedy comes from consistency. Comedy comes from working hard every day. Comedy comes from skills. Comedy comes from being shameless. Comedy comes from being a district director, whatever. You understand? Like comedy, you don't have to be tragic. Like, you don't have to go through tragedy to make people laugh. So that is one myth which I want to tell,
Yeah,
people.
right. When you said this particular thing, it reminded me of the movie Rockstar, when one fine person said to Ranbir Kapoor, "You have to go through the pain to get reach over there."
These are the kind of movies which are spoiling everybody. Gunjan, rockstar it seems, bakwas fellow. Like you should not make these movies. You should just make a movie where a person is very happy personally and is still making people laugh. That is the kind of movie. It need not be rock star. You just make him like a, whatever, common person, normal person. You don't need tragedy. So
Correct. Same to you, ma'am. What is that one common myth that you want to debunk?
actually, many people think that the profession of cake artist doesn't bring in much in terms of financial, the monetary gain in having to run a business like this. But if that is something that I want to say, that if you really put in hard work and you really uh, do it with will, that will to really make this work, it is possible. Because I know of many cake artists who have ditched their jobs and have taken this as a full-time job, and they are running now, no more of home business, but they have their own shops put out, and they are doing extremely well. And one thing is, every day there is somebody celebrating a birthday. Every day there is a need of a cake. So definitely cake artists are not out of business. So this is something I want to tell those who want to venture into cake business. You will be baking a cake every day. You will never be out of business. So that's it, in the beginning, people look at it like, how many people are you going to bake cakes for? How much are you going to get from it? How much are you going to gain from it? But it's not only just about the monetary gains, it's about the happiness that goes with it. Because I think apart from everything that happens on a birthday, what everybody looks forward to is a birthday cake. So without a birthday cake or without a cake, there is no celebration. So that's where the happiness lies. So for me, that is what I would like to convey.
True.
about
And in
it.
today's
I
world, I
think
feel not.
I
Yes,
think
yes,
Priscilla,
Ajay.
we should collaborate, Priscilla. Like you just make a cake,
Definitely.
and on the cake, I'll write a joke. Like it's just you are not only giving cake, but you are also giving a joke along with cake. That would be
Done.
great.
Deal.
And I
Or
really
for
like
that
the
matter,
point.
I
Yeah,
have one
every day.
idea.
Yeah. Tell Gunjan. Yeah.
You bake cupcakes, and Rajshekhar would do that fortune cookie type of a thing in a funny way. Every cupcake has something in it for everyone
Yes.
who will be picking it up.
So basically, on your birthday, you're not only cutting a cake, but you're also laughing hilariously. That would be great. Yeah. Sorry, Gunjan. Please
Wonderful.
continue with your moderation.
That's all right. You don't need to be sorry. So moving on to Toastmasters now, that what is that most important thing which you have learned in your Toastmasters journey, which has helped you, that learning has helped you to change something good, something better in your life. So first with you, Rajshekhar.
I'm going first. Okay. Yeah. So there are a couple of things. Number one, I learned that no matter what you want to achieve, you need to stick to certain steps. You see, like the process is very, very important. Like you cannot bypass the process. Like if you want to be a humorous speaker, let's say for example, there's a process for it. You want to be a lousy speaker, there's a process for it. There is a process for everything. You just need to keep hitting the process consistently. This is something which I learned very early. Luckily for me, I had a great mentor, Dr. Vijayashree. Without her, probably I would have just gone for bonkers. She was the one who told me that, Rashika, it doesn't matter what your weaknesses are. Just focus on your strengths. You focus on your strengths and you focus on the process. I am sure you will do whatever you want to. And for me, because my goal was stage time, my goal was not to win a contest. My goal was to just go to the contest, speak for 7 minutes. What happens after that, it doesn't matter because I can't control what happens after that. But for myself, my goal is to get the stage time. And I got the stage time again and again, following the process. And every time I had some process in place. Whether it's a good process or bad process, we can evaluate later. But I had a process in place and I kept hitting the process again and again. So that's one lesson which I learned and which helped me a lot, especially during the last 3 years of my stand-up comedy career. I had this certain process in place. Like I told myself that okay, every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I'll work on a video. Uh, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I'll work on a video. Thursday, I'll release the video. And Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I'll work on the video feedback. I'll see how it can be made better. So like that, I had certain process in place. And if you see during pandemic, I had a great time. I had like amazing time. I think pandemic is the best thing to have happened to in my life. I know a lot of you might not agree. I'm sorry, but for me, pandemic, I have been extremely productive during pandemic. I released almost close to 55 videos during pandemic, and that kind of changed things for me. And that happened because I stuck to some lesson which I learned from Toastmaster, which is process is everything.
Great. That is actually a great learning, which all the Toastmasters can take away. And similarly, ma'am, what is that most important thing which you have learned in your Toastmasters, which has helped to change you for better?
Yeah, for me, it has been about how much you put in is how much you will get back. So every meeting that I go, and if I don't take up a role, then apart from being an active listener, I have not gained much, I feel. So has it to be taking up a role or giving a speech, or even preparing for the meeting, anything that is done behind the scenes. Yeah, as much as I have put in, that much I have got. And that is how I have been able to move quickly. I have taken the different roles. So it's all about how much you give to anything, even my profession. How much time would I give to learning a skill? Likewise, how much time would I give to Toastmasters? The more time I give to Toastmasters, the more I'm benefiting. And this is what I learned early on, because every time that somebody asked me to do something, initially I would say, but why am I supposed to do this? Don't we have a VPPR? Don't we have this one? Don't we have that one to do this? Why should I be doing? That was my initial thing. And I would point out, aren't you the VP membership? You should be doing this. But now I've realized that, have I to do all this? I am learning for myself. I'm gaining. So why shouldn't I do it? So that is what has helped me to take different roles, to put in your efforts, and the end result is you get it just helps you. And that is one thing that has helped me build my confidence, because initially when I did complain about, why don't you do this, why don't you do that, actually what I was doing was just putting myself, it was looking for an excuse that, oh, I don't think I should be doing this. But over the period, I just learned that if I do it, I'm going to benefit. And that's what it has been for me, taking most of Toastmasters and benefiting from it.
Very well, ma'am. So both of you have said that you follow a certain process. As Rajshekar said, that there is a process. You dedicate this much time to this, basically this much time to my video, this much time to inculcate the feedback and apply it. And similarly, ma'am, you said that you have to dedicate time, certain amount of time to your work, learning to new skills. So we would like to know that, I mean, the attendees who are Toastmasters in this meeting would also agree with me. The most important issue which everyone faces is time. We don't have time, and especially in right now when the contest season are in process, people are like, I don't have time for this, I don't have time for that. How would I manage my personal stuff along with Toastmasters? So we would like to know how Rajashekar and how Priscilla manages their time along with your particular profession. So first we'll go with Rajashekar.
So, I mean, to be very honest, I never felt an issue with time because, I mean, I just love what I'm doing. So you will find time, right? Like, I mean, I don't have to prioritize time for comedy. This is it. Like, this is my life, you know. Like, you will find time. What else I can do? I mean, there is no other way. Like, for example, let's say, for example, if I'm not doing this today, like this session I'm not doing, I would just be in some other Zoom open mic performing, you know, or I'll be just meeting a comedian and discussing some ideas with him. So you will always find time. I think people who tell that, you know, I'm not finding time for some activity which I love are the ones who are taking themselves a little bit too seriously, you see. You just chill and do whatever you want to do, man. I mean, don't you think during pandemic we realized that all of us have great amount of time? That is something which all of us have realized, that we have so much time. We are so scared that this much time is there for us. And I'm sure if you really care about what you love, you will find time. So I think people who say, I don't have time, I think are unnecessarily wasting time. So I always found time. So
Yeah, so that saying holds true in some places, that if you love something, you find time eventually. So what's your take on this, ma'am, about the time management, managing your clients, your work, Toastmasters, and plus you're also a housewife, so everything along with it.
Yes, it is a juggle. It is a juggle. No doubt it's a juggle between work and home, to do with the home housework and to attend meetings. But I remember a year ago, not year ago, I mean, I've been doing it ever since I joined Toastmasters. I put it down that, okay, Monday, so-and-so meeting, Saturday, so-and-so meeting, and I have those dates blocked. I remember giving a speech, a level 5 speech, and putting out in the presentation my busy schedule of having to bake cakes, having to decorate them, and having to attend Toastmaster meeting. And Toastmaster Pragya was there at that meeting. And when she saw that chart, she said, I need to make a chart like this. I need to prioritize. I need to put down when I am going to attend Toastmaster meeting. This is what we need to do. I mean, for me, at least for me, I put it down, and I put it down so that I know that it's going to help me, not for anybody. To make time, again, if you want to do it, you will make time for it. If you are going to look at it like, what am I going to gain from it? Then you will not then you will just look at it, okay, why should I be attending the meeting? Let me sit and watch Netflix. But it's for you to decide. What is it? Is it going to benefit you? Are you looking at it that at the end of this meeting, I'm going to learn something new? Then definitely you will make time and you will attend the meeting. Because Toastmasters is all about growing. The mission statement says that. And what are you growing in? Self-confidence and personal growth. So if this is what you're going to get at the end of it, why not prioritize your Toastmaster meetings?
Truly, why not? Because as they say that the most dreaded fear in this world is of public speaking, and when you are getting such platform to learn, then why not? That's the biggest motivation, I must say, for the people. Well, now, how do you inculcate your learnings that you have learned from Toastmasters? I mean, how they have improved your art form? I would like to know that. The learnings of Toastmasters have uh, impacted your skill, your artwork, improvements, if you can say. We love to listen from you, Rajshekar.
So in Toastmasters, what I used to do is whenever I take up a speech slot in any club, or if I take up a Toastmaster of the Day role, these are the two main roles which I've taken up in different clubs. All the other roles, I'll just say, I'm sorry, I'm busy. But these are the two roles. If somebody says, can you take up Toastmaster of the Day? Yeah, I'll be there. You know, so these are the two roles which I've taken up. And in stand-up comedy also, what I would do is before going on stage, I would have one goal with respect to my particular role. Let's say if I'm giving a speech today, and I may have a goal like, okay, today in this speech, my goal is to make people laugh 7 times. That is my goal. I'll go with that goal and I'll give the speech. Or today in my speech, my goal is to make sure that I tell the story without fumbling. So this could be the goal. So every time I take up a role, I had one particular goal which I have, and then I go with that particular intention. So what happens by that is I'm not just giving a speech for the sake of giving a speech or for some fulfilling a project guideline, but I'm giving because that particular area is a concern for me in my stand-up comedy career. So what I'll do is I'll try to mix both these things. You know, if in my stand-up comedy I realize that every time I'm telling a story, towards the end of the story, it just fizzles out. So I'll take that aspect of storytelling and I'll come and give speeches in 10 different clubs, different stories. And every time I come to the climax, I'll make sure that the climax doesn't fizzle out. And once I give these 10 stories in 10 different clubs, I'll go back to stand-up comedy and I'll implement in the open mics, and then eventually it goes to the show. So that is how I try to bridge the gap between Toastmasters and profession. And that is how I keep focusing on one skill at a time, one goal at a time, you know. So that's how it works. And a lot of people think, like in Toastmasters, I'm sure some of you might have seen me in different clubs. Why is this fellow giving the same speech? Yeah, I'm giving the same speech, but with a different goal, you know. So that people may not understand, but that's okay. As long as you understand what your process is, I think that will help you.
True, true. And with you, ma'am, how have the Toastmasters journey helped you to enhance your art and skill?
Well, Toastmasters is all about building communication and leadership skills. And you will wonder, what has leadership skill got to do with cake decorating or being a cake artist? But in the process of taking up leadership roles in Toastmasters, I have learned that I need to really take up these roles even in my profession. If tomorrow I want to launch a program or an event for cake artists, I am the person. I am the one who can do this. And why is it that I can do it? Because I've learned it at Toastmasters. Because in Toastmasters, I've taken club officers training. I've attended all these various trainings that happen at Toastmasters. And what have I done there? Learned, enhanced my skill. So I know that I can take this, what I've learned at Toastmasters, to my profession, irrespective. Even if you're a homemaker, you can apply the skills that you have learned at Toastmasters at home. I mean, I see how I deal with my family right now. I know how to manipulate and tell my children or my husband, well, the Toastmasters meeting is more important to me. Can you all wait? Can we go out some other day? So this is what we learn, not to manipulate, but what I mean is you learn how to deal with situations where the way you communicate. I mean, in Toastmasters, every time we are taught to motivate, and our evaluations are not just critical, but constructive. And if that is what I have learned today at Toastmasters, is what I put into practice even when I'm talking to my clients. If I don't want to do something that the client has requested, then I know how to communicate and persuade the client to change their mind and do something that I would suggest them to do, to take up. So this is what I have learned in Toastmasters, that communication basically has helped me a lot in how I deal with my clients, how I can basically just persuade my clients to take on something else. I'll give you an example. Recently, I made unicorn cake, and I was like, I must have made at least 5 or 6 cakes similar. And there are so many other designs, and everybody's coming up and telling me, this is what I want. I was like, come on, somebody give me something different. To the extent that I literally had to tell the person, why not this? Why do you want this? And this is something that I could do because of the communication skills I learned in Toastmasters, to persuade the client that, well, everybody does this. Let's do something different. Let's do something unique. And I got it. So this is a small example, but it has helped me in a big way. That's about it.
Yes, true. Very true. So moving further, this is you, Rajshekhar, that did you ever get a subject from Toastmasters platform that you used well in your act or gig you're performing?
What was? I did not understand the question.
Did you ever get a subject, a particular incident happened in Toastmasters or any Toastmaster experience basically? Did you get, and yeah, you have used it well in your gig while performing stand-up?
Oh, yeah. I used it. Like, it's wonderful. Like, I think you get all types of characters in Toastmasters. Yeah, it's fantastic. And one
Can
of the
you
biggest.
share a few?
Of course, I'll share. Of course, there's a video also, but
Good luck.
that's okay. Only 20 of you. It doesn't make any difference if you go and watch the YouTube video. But I'll tell the joke also. So there's this one particular premise where I worked on called how motivational speakers operate. Okay. So motivational speakers are just doing overacting a lot of times. You see, they just do unnecessarily exaggerated body language and they do nothing else. I remember one incident where one guy, a motivational speaker, he went on stage and he slept on the stage. Like, that is his beginning. He slept on the stage. And I was sitting in the background. Hey, what happened? Why did he sleep on the stage? And then suddenly he gets up and he looks at the audience and tells, how many of you get dreams when you sleep? I say, hey, Bakwas fellow, this much overacting. What if you're talking about loose motions? What will you do, man? This was a joke. But if you see this particular incident of a motivation speaker, the speaker sleeping on the stage, it happened in Toastmasters of Hyderabad. This is a true incident, you see. So there was one guy in ISC contest. I don't want to tell the name of the guy, Gopinath, but the point is, like, this guy, I'm such a shameless guy, Okay, fine. So this guy went on stage and he gave the speech and he slept on the stage. It was like fantastic. I was like, wow. So like that, I get a lot of material from Toastmasters, and I'm forever indebted to Toastmasters. I hope that all of you be like this only. Give me more content, and so that I can survive in life. Yeah, I use sometimes. But more than this, there is one very important benefit which I got from Toastmasters, and that is feedback, you see. Because not every joke works. And in Toastmasters, it is brilliant because you go to a club, you attempt a humorous speech. If it works, it's a humorous speech. Otherwise, people will think it's an inspirational speech. So that way, you can never fail in Toastmasters, you see. You're always giving some value to Toastmasters. So you will always get some great feedback, and the feedback always helped. Of course, characters do help, but feedback helped a lot.
True, feedback helps a lot. And ma'am, how does Toastmasters had helped you to connect with your clients better? And have you ever got a subject for your next cake? I mean, creative minds are always who thinks in odd direction. So have you ever got an idea of this design from Toastmasters or something like that? Have you ever seen a poster of Toastmasters and you have thought, what what if we inculcate this in something, or something like that?
Well, I would say it has been the other way around.
Okay.
We have, and I don't know if anybody, I mean, in the audience who all are aware of the traditional program. And in the traditional program, we have something like the CC8, which is visual aids, and we do have it in pathways also. For me, it has been the other way around because I took my entire kitchen to the Toastmasters venue and I did the entire cake decorating as my CC8 project. So when you look at it, if Toastmasters can draw my profession into Toastmasters, then isn't that very nice of me, of Toastmasters, that I feel at home in Toastmasters, taking my entire kitchen to Toastmasters, demonstrating of how you decorate a cake. And if you have to ask me how has Toastmasters, how would I inculcated Toastmasters in my profession, then it has, of course, been the skills that I've learned in Toastmasters of how to communicate. Then there's this thing about how to draw audience, how to draw your people who you know in your circle to Toastmasters. So having been a Toastmaster, when I go and deliver a cake or when I'm talking or when I'm communicating with the client, I tell them, see, I can take your order provided I deliver it at this time, because at this time I have a Toastmasters meeting. And that's enough for them to, what is a Toastmasters meeting? So for me, drawing people, talking about Toastmasters, telling them what the benefit of Toastmasters is, that's how I have brought Toastmasters into my profession. But I just love taking my profession to Toastmasters. Every time I'm delivering a speech, there is a connection between what I do for a living. And it has been a very nice mingle of both of them. And just to tell you, there's just Toastmasters and cake decorating for me, nothing else. At least our other guest has just stage time. I have two things. So
that's one plus point that you have.
Sheila, I have a question actually.
Yes.
So, like this Toastmaster Club, they keep celebrating this 50th meeting, 25th meeting, and all this stuff. No? Do they ask you for a cake?
Yes, I have done. We had our 400th meeting in last September.
But do you charge them? That's my question. Because
come on, I mean, this is my club. If it's for the club, it's not coming out from the club funds. And of course, all of us, we do contribute to the club. We don't look for ways of if I have a venue, I don't charge the club, I offer the venue. So likewise, I have the skill to make a beautiful cake, and that's once 400 meeting. Next 500 meeting will come after another 2 years. So it's fine. After all that Toastmasters has given me, it's nothing.
Wonderful, wonderful. Okay, Gunjan, I think you should moderate.
No, actually, with this question, one thing popped in my head right now, because being a VPPR, we give a lot of emphasis on brand colors and all. So when Rajashekar said that you bake cakes for the anniversary, so the one thing which popped up in my head was, have you ever made a cake with all the brand colors, following all the brand guidelines, that yellow, maroon, blue, or have this idea popped in your head someday?
I wish I could share a cake picture. Well, I did make a cake and really concentrating on the blue,
Mhm.
the royal blue of
Oh
the
wow.
Toastmasters,
Yellow, gray,
and
maroon,
that
yeah.
was, of course, for the president because it was the president's birthday.
Mhm.
And the 400 cake also, I went with the theme that was there.
Mhm.
So yes, pretty much stuck to the uh, colors.
I think
Yeah.
for the club president's birthday, you should have the club president's face on the cake, like, so he's cutting himself. That's like kind of ego dissolving also, like it just you
No,
are
I
like,
gave him a badge of honor. So I
oh,
made him a badge, nice badge on the cake.
Wonderful. Okay. So moving ahead, that some people just sit silent for a while. Some go for a solo trip or just a walk to a nature to get that inspiration, to get that creative thought in your head. So what is your way to include that creativity which you need for your profession? Uh, Starting with you, Rajshik.
so every Monday holiday for me. I do nothing. I don't do anything else. So all the other days I have some activities to do, like reading a book, writing, or going on like stage time. All these things I have like some 7 activities to do every single day. But Monday I do nothing. Monday is just a holiday for me. I do absolutely nothing. And once in a year, for 10 days, I go to this meditation retreat called Vipassana. So I'm not a religious person. I'm not a God fearing person, but I do go to this Vipassana once in a year, 10 days. I've been going from last 5 years. Every year once I go, and I meditate every day regularly. So that is something which I go. So this is how I try to balance between. And every time I went to Vipassana, I came up with a new idea for a show, and it worked out for me. You see,
Okay.
so
So yes, meditation works for you in that way.
yeah, I mean holidays work for me.
Okay.
Every Monday holiday that works for me. You see, today
Okay.
also Monday, na. I was telling Pragya I don't want to do anything. Pragya was like, no, you have to be like fine, whatever. So
Okay. So what is with you, ma'am? What works for you, uh, acting as your inspiration for your ideas to put in your cake design?
With cake decorating, it has to be uh, an original idea will come to your mind, and you would want to portray it on the canvas right away because it's fresh in your mind and you want to do it on the cake. So this is something like when I don't have anything much to do and I have it in my mind, or I have seen a picture somewhere of nature and I just download it, and then I try to make a cake for no reason. Yes, for no reason, cakes are made for no reason also. Make a cake and portray that because it's just like, see, a cake, when it's just covered with white icing, it's like canvas. And then you start adding elements to it and decorate it. It's just like any artist who has a canvas and starts painting. So that is what I can do when I am free. But most of the time when I get the cake orders, see, in a cake, no cake can be repeated, especially one which is handmade. Not, I'm not talking about the ones which have the chocolate being draped around the cake and all. The ones which are handmade cakes, basically, I can never repeat my own cakes. I can never repeat. So every time it is something that inspires you to add on something or to remove something, to put something different. And that has been the inspiration. Of course, I go through a lot of other cake magazines, and now there's so much online happening to learn about the trends, what's the latest trend. And this needs a lot of practice. you learn some new skills, and that then becomes your inspiration. So that's
Good to know.
about how to go.
It's somewhere relatable, much actually, with me as well. That you improvise while doing stuff, and that's not like you make a similar piece for the next time. There is something new which you add every time, and it enhances that.
Exactly, right.
True, that's true. Okay, moving on. And now we have like we have a rapid fire section, but we don't have hampers to provide you. So are you both up for it? We'll go first with Toastmaster Rajshekar.
Yeah, done.
Okay. So you have to be quick with your answers.
Yeah. I'm always quick.
Okay.
Just continue, please. Sorry. I'll try to be humble. Yeah.
It's okay. Morning person or night person?
What?
You are a morning person or a night person?
Nice person.
Morning person or night person?
Night person. Because all the shows happen in the night only, na?
Okay. Long walks or long drives?
Long drive and park the vehicle there and start walking long, just both actually, but yeah.
Workout or meditation?
Meditation.
Crowd work or a planned gig?
Crowd work. Always crowd work. I love crowd work. I'm so lazy with writing and coming up with content. I love crowd work. If crowd is there, I don't need anything. That's it.
One person who inspires you the most?
One person who inspires me the most, there's this one Toastmaster from Miyapur Toastmaster called Manasa Enapudi. She inspires me the most.
Indian street food or American fast food?
Indian street food, yeah. Masala dosa, idli, all these things are like so good. Now they are coming up with like 100 varieties of masala dosas, There's a pizza dosa also. Nobody knows what that is, but it's fantastic. You just eat and throw it on the person who is selling it, That's fantastic.
Okay. If you have one thing which you have to have for your entire life, what would it be? Either brownies or red velvet. What would you choose?
I should choose between brownies and red velvet, yeah?
Yes.
Okay, brownie only.
Okay. And describe yourself in 3 words.
Describe myself in 3 words, okay? Shameless and stay comedian and shameless. We can't have two shamelessness.
We can have shameless square.
Then I could have told like shameless actually.
Wonderful, ma. Okay, moving ahead with Toastmaster Priscilla.
Bring it on.
Mountains or beaches?
I didn't get it, sorry.
Mountains or beaches?
Okay, this is tricky. Mountains.
Daytime or nighttime?
Night.
Buttercream or fondant?
Fondant.
Kuwait or India?
India.
Who do you admire the most?
My husband sitting in the meeting room here.
Indian food or Arabic food?
Indian food.
If you could eat one flavor for the rest of your life, which flavor it would be?
You're giving me choices?
No, just one flavor you pick. You have to eat that flavor for the rest of your life. So what would be that flavor?
Then I think I'll go with chocolate.
And lastly, describe yourself in 3 words.
Well, 3 words are gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous.
Wonderful.
Hey, but this is cheating, Gunjan. For me, you have given only 2 options, brownie and velvet, and for her, you can choose whatever you want to. What, huh?
Because I am also not that much educated in different types of flavors. I know only 3 to 4 flavors. Oh, I
Do you think I know what a brownie and red velvet is? Even I don't know. I just chose because brownie mein brown hai. What?
Chocolate hai.
Ah.
Okay, so
Okay, fine.
again, Rajshekar, that one thing you have to eat for your rest of your life. What would that thing be? You can't eat anything else except that.
Now that's a great question. I'm proud of you, Gunjan. You are a quick learner. I'm sure one day you'll become the district director of whatever district you're part of. Uh, I love upma, right? Like I'll eat upma every single day for the rest of my life.
The rest of your life.
Yeah, yeah.
Wonderful. Okay, that was a very fun rapid fire round, I must say. Now moving on with some wisdomful questions which we have right now coming up. There's a common notion about Toastmasters that Toastmasters help only to people who are working in corporates or who are aspiring to become go to MBA colleges, and basically it has more benefits to the white collar job or people aspiring from that field, from the corporate world. And there is a notion that how can artists get benefit from Toastmasters? What is their in treasure in Toastmasters for them? So can you please uh, say something regarding this, that how does Toastmaster help to anyone pursuing career in arts, not just particularly on stand-up comedy or not just particularly in cake decoration, but the artist community in general? How does Toastmasters help them?
Who is going first?
You, Rajshekar.
Okay, fine. So, I mean, why are we restricting it to artist versus corporate? I mean, Toastmasters help in life also, no? Like, I mean, I feel, I think that's a very narrow view of looking at Toastmasters, because Toastmasters has a lot of elements, right? Like, for example, evaluation. Evaluation will make you a little bit more empathetic in personal life also. Don't you think empathy as a quality
Hmm.
will help you to deal with your friends in a better way? And if
Right.
you see table topics, it makes you quick wit, spontaneity. Don't you think spontaneity will help you in dealing with interviews, or spontaneity will help you when you go on a date? That's a beautiful thing, no? Like, it's just, why are you restricting it only to artists? I'll tell you, I'll talk about artists and corporates also. But I think
Surely,
what
surely.
we essentially, when we look at Toastmasters, is that we always look at Toastmasters, like forums like Toastmasters, that how is it going to benefit me? So that is one question which we keep asking, but we don't realize why should Toastmasters benefit you? I think the crux is to ask yourself, why should it benefit me? Like, why am I seeking something from Toastmasters? Which I think we always seek from Toastmasters, which we always want in real life. Like, if in real life nobody gives you attention, you will seek it in Toastmasters. In real life, if nobody gives you respect, you seek it in Toastmasters. You always seek in Toastmasters what you seek, what you're not getting outside Toastmasters. So that is where I think you have to reverse it. You seek in Toastmasters what you can give to Toastmasters. Let's say if my contribution to Toastmasters meeting is that in a series of 5 speakers, I can go there and lighten the mood of the meeting. That's my contribution. I have to seek that experience again and again. That is how you see, you define yourself, how you can contribute to Toastmasters as a person. So when you go to B schools, when you apply for B schools, like ISB or whatever, the first thing they look at your profile is how this person can contribute to the class. They won't look at how ISB will benefit this person. They will look at how this person, by being in 400 other students, can contribute to these 400 students. So that is how I think, for me, this I learned from Dr. Vijayashree. So because I was asking her when I joined in 2008, 2009, I was asking her, ma'am, I'm an MBA student. I want to be a stand-up comedian. How will Toastmaster benefit me? And then she told me this, Rashika, why should it benefit you? You benefit Toastmasters. No? You contribute to Toastmasters. No? And then I realized so beautifully that when you keep giving to Toastmasters, Toastmasters will give back something which you did not even realize. I was only giving speeches in all the clubs in Toastmasters, but I made some beautiful friends from Toastmasters. I did not want friends. I wanted stage time, but I got as a benefit friends, you see. So that is what happens when you give, when you keep giving, you will benefit a lot. So whether you are an artist or you are a corporate employee or whether you are a housewife or whether you are an entrepreneur, whatever you are, don't think that how will Toastmaster benefit you. You tell yourself you are much more than that. You tell yourself that I will contribute to Toastmasters. And look at all of us today here. I think all of us are from different backgrounds. Don't you think this is such a beautiful feeling all of us are getting by just being part of this meeting? Like this meeting is not helping us in any way. We are all helping this meeting, you know. So you are much more than what you think you are. So you can contribute to Toastmasters. Toastmasters will do nothing for you. You should do everything for Toastmasters. And as a benefit, you will get friends for life. I think sometimes I just wonder I should have been a ISC winner, but that's okay. That's for others. Okay, that's my time, Gunjan. Thank you so much. Thank you
That's
for
a
the
very
standing
good
ovation,
takeaway.
please.
That's a very good takeaway. What is your take on this, Toastmaster Priscilla? What do you have to say to such budding artists, what they can seek as, or as Rajshekar said that you agree with him? What's your take?
Yes, I do agree with what Rajshekar has to say. But if we are, this is something which we would come to accept as we get into Toastmasters and learn what Toastmasters is about. And that's when we can say, yes, what how much we put in is what we will get back. As you said, you delivered speeches and what you got was friends. So this is something we realize only once we are into Toastmasters. But if I have to ask, if somebody who is a non-Toastmaster has to come up, and if I have to convince the non-Toastmaster to become a Toastmaster, then of course this question is going to come up: how am I going to benefit? You go to any movie, am I going to benefit from watching the movie? You go anywhere for anything, everybody looks for how they will benefit. And initially, what as Toastmasters, I feel that what I look at is I have to explain to the uh, the the guest, the non-Toastmaster, what they will benefit. Because, and of course, set examples for these non-Toastmasters or budding Toastmasters, what they can do. For instance, if having to give them the opportunity to take part, to be the Toastmaster, to encourage them to be, only after they have performed that role will they know the benefit from taking up that role. There are, like, I remember when I would shy away from evaluation because I thought that that is not my field. And I used to say, look for excuses not to evaluate. But I evaluated once or twice and I did miserable. But it was only after I started doing it often that I was able to now, I would say, give a good evaluation. So it is imperative that anyone joining Toastmasters or wanting to join will definitely want to know, after putting 4 hours a month, what am I going to get? And they are going to ask this question. So for me, I look at it that I have to set an example. I have to put myself there, show them that if you do this, this is what you will gain. And once they are in Toastmasters, then of course, like all of us, we don't look for what we are going to gain from Toastmasters. We just put in everything. We just, this very meeting, as Toastmaster Rajshekar said, this very meeting, what are we going to gain at the end of this? But all of us came to this meeting. That's what it is. After this meeting, I have another meeting. Did I ask that person who asked me, can you join our meeting? I remember yesterday I asked you, Toastmaster Gunjan, can we just postpone our meeting, the one-on-one, so that I can attend, I can reach out to a club that needs me as a GE. So it's then it becomes that, okay, I want to give to the club. And initially it will be, what has the club to offer to me? So my take is that,
Very well put,
to
ma'am. Very well put.
encourage the
And
members.
yes, and I'm sure that who all will be listening to this particular episode online after it's been posted on YouTube, surely it's a very good takeaway for them. Moving ahead, that now being into Toastmasters, we all, you both particularly have taken leadership roles as well in Toastmasters. So we would like to know that how does taking leadership roles in Toastmasters platform had helped you in your profession? I mean, which skills you directly relate to your profession, which you have learned in Toastmasters? Starting with you, Rashi.
Okay. Why am I always going first? Huh? Okay, fine, fine. It's okay. I'll go first. It's okay. So one quality which I learned from being an agile director during 2015 was so there's a lot of pressure from, obviously if you're an agile director, I'm sure you would understand that there'll always be a lot of pressure from district leaders. You see, from the district director, division director, they're all behind you. Hey, your club is not doing this. Your club is not doing this, and then you know they want your club to do certain things. You know, hey, your club should achieve DCP points, your club should become a whatever, like, you know, all this pressure will be there. So obviously, when I was age director, that pressure was there. And I realized that whatever my superior is asking, this club cannot give that, and this club cannot give that because this club needs something else altogether. So I put myself away as a age director. I thought, okay, I'm not going to think about what I want as a director. What I'll do is I'll go to this club, whatever it requires, I'll give it off. Like there are clubs which were struggling at that point of time. They were not finding role players. So there were times where I would go to the club, instead of behaving like a age director, I would just behave like one of the members. You see, I'll just take up Toastmaster Vijay, and I was one meeting. I was a Toastmaster Vijay. I was a general evaluator also. So I was evaluating myself while I was playing the role of Toastmaster Vijay. And if needed, I was ready to be a speaker. And they said, "Hey, Rashika, don't do this much overacting. We have other people also." So you just give whatever the club needs. And this is one quality which I started implementing in my stand-up comedy also. Even today, before going on stage, every single time I tell myself before entering on the stage that for the next 15 minutes or half an hour I'm going to be on stage, this audience is going to have a great time. And I would go with that intention. And whenever I went with that intention, it always worked for me. So that is something which I directly took it from being an area director, and I started implementing in my profession. So yeah.
Wonderful. Good to know that. And how does it this works with you, Toastmaster Priscilla? The taking up leadership roles, which quality you directly relate to your profession, your style of working?
Well, leadership role for me as has been a fulfilling role for myself as an individual. I don't see how I have implemented in my profession as of yet, but I know that have I to take up anything that should go in line with leadership and my profession, then I am equipped to do that because I have the skills learned at Toastmasters. So it may not be directly like how you would look at it, that you learn something in Toastmasters and in a corporate world you can immediately put it to use. For as an artist, I still need that platform where I can put my leadership skills that I've embedded from Toastmasters into my profession. But coming to communication, yes, I made the most of it. Leadership, I still need to work. I still need to apply it in my profession.
Okay. Okay. So we are here talking about all the successes and what all challenges you have faced. But it's very rare that we talk about failures, which are the most important thing, which helps to build our character, what we are today, which helps to build our art, what it's right now. So we would like to know if you are comfortable to share your experience that you consider in your life as a failure, but how Toastmasters helped you overcome that fear or that failure, uh, some incident as such. Starting with Priscilla this time.
I'm so
Thank
happy.
you.
Thank you so much, Gunjan. I think you have all the qualities of being a great leader.
Yes, I agree with that. Um, well, for me, Toastmasters has actually, it has built my confidence from day one. Like walking into a Toastmasters meeting, the first very meeting, as like everyone, I really trembled. I had butterflies in my tummy. And even now, whenever it's contest speeches and all that, it still happens. And these are places where I can see myself like, okay, this is not happening, or my clubs in my area are not performing. What do I do? How do I get them to perform? In my personal life, okay, I am facing a problem. How do I solve this? So yes, these challenges are there. But again, it has been Toastmasters only that has helped me to overcome these challenges. Like, for example, I took up president's role and I faced challenges. I wanted to even step down. But then there are Toastmasters around who will tell you, no, you are not meant to step down. You are supposed to continue with your journey as president. Just get onto that stage back again, continue. And take, for example, a speech. I took the stage and then I froze. But nobody told me you failed. It was a challenge standing frozen on the stage, but they told me, okay, get off, freshen up, come back. So if it is Toastmasters, how much, wherever you may fail, or wherever, there's nothing as fail in Toastmasters. But if you feel that it's all crumbling on you, it is nothing but, again, or your mentor or just the Toastmasters community that can put you back into the system and you start all over again. So it has been give and take, give and take, give and take in Toastmasters. And it's a beautiful journey. Give, you get in return, you give. And even when it comes to me personally, mentoring somebody, it is very much this same concept. Like, I know that member is struggling with having to either deliver a speech or prepare a speech, as simple as that. But if I don't guide or if I don't mentor, then the challenge for that member is much more. So I faced it when I was I look at it, I put myself in the shoes of that member, and I have gone through the same. And what helped me was not coming home to my children and saying, I have this speech to deliver, I don't know how to do it, or I have this challenge, I have to get so many members for the club, I don't know how to do it. It has been within the community. Right now, I know this very forum, this very talk show, I've got so many ideas filled out of this talk show. I want to take it to my clubs and implement it there. So you see, it's a vicious circle that Toastmasters has more and more to offer you. You'll never feel lost. You'll never feel crumbled. So that's my take on how to face the challenges.
Wonderful, ma'am. Actually, Toastmasters is such a community where people will help you to go up, 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 and up. And very relatable. What's your take on this, Rajshekhar?
So I'll tell one incident where I felt very miserable. I failed very badly in Toastmasters only. So I do a lot of crowd work. Sometimes I roast people, when I'm on stage. So there was a time where I was in one of the division conferences. They asked me to be a master of ceremonies. So as a master of ceremonies, you go on stage, you keep things light. I was doing it and I was getting good response. Everybody was laughing. Some 600, 700 people were there. And there was one phase where for 2 minutes I picked on somebody and I just roasted that person, and the person also laughed and everybody laughed, and it was a great moment, like it was one of the best moments I had. And that person whom I picked on, he whatever, like, that person was my best friend, and I thought, okay, oh, this worked very well. And then I did not realize that the person felt bad. Yeah, like after 2 years I realized that the person felt bad about that incident, that I roasted that person. And the person was in tears, and I was like, what, you carried this burden for 2 years? And that kind of made me feel very bad. Then I realized, from now on, every time I do crowd work, every time I roast people, I should roast in such a way that they should not feel bad at all. So even if I do a crowd work, even if I roast somebody, indirectly the joke is on me. No, it's like I changed the entire pattern. I was not like picking on people anymore. In the guise of picking on people, I was only picking on myself. And the moment I started doing it, it kind of changed my entire crowd work scenario in my shows. And in the last 1 year, if I had done like let's say 60 live shows, out of 60 live shows, almost 45 of them are just crowd work. I just go on stage, I just do crowd work for 1 hour and I come back. And all those crowd work where I pick on people, which seems like picking on people, it's not actually picking on people because the joke is on me at the end of the day. So I failed very badly and I felt very sad that a friend felt bad, but then again I learned a lesson from there, and that kind of helped me. So that is one. And second thing which is a failure which I want to talk about is you mentor a lot of people. I mentored a lot of people. I've been in Toastmasters from 2008, and from 2011 regularly I've been mentoring a lot of people, and especially during humorous speech contest season, I get some huge mentor requests, like probably 50, 60 people will come and, hey, can you mentor me? And I say, hey, wonderful, I'll mentor you. Just come to Barista, sponsor a coffee, and then I'll mentor you. And then I would mentor people. But one failure which I thought during mentoring was I'm mentoring them, they're giving speeches, but I think I did not teach them how to, uh, you know, how to take a failure, you see. Like you go to district level and you don't end up in the top three. And my mentees come back to me and they blame the judges, they blame the system, they blame everything. So that is something which I couldn't teach them for a long time, you see. I felt so bad. I know a couple of my mentees who quit Toastmasters because they did not win at the highest level. And I felt very sad. I was like, so from then on, I changed my mentoring style also. Whoever comes to me, I tell them first, brother, I'm not, or sister, I'm not mentoring you to win the contest. I'm mentoring you to learn the skill of how to make people laugh. And winning may or may not happen. Okay, so this is very clear. And if you win, we'll go to a different restaurant. If you lose, you come back to Barista, I'll counsel you also. So that is something which I've been telling. So I changed my mentoring style. Now people don't come to me to win a contest. They come to me because we want to see what we can learn from each other. These are the two failures which I had, and I learned something from them. But I think
And that's a way of life, actually.
I don't know way of life, but yeah, Gunjan, I think it sounds philosophical when you say way of life. But yeah, I think it's a way of life, probably.
No, because I know that many of my friends also I have seen in Toastmasters that when they come third or when they don't end up being in the first three, uh, they many people are not able to handle that. And if
Yeah,
you know how to handle that, that's actually very good quality.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, nice, good to know that.
So today's
Okay.
contest losers are tomorrow's judges. Like that's how it works. No, no, I'm just joking. That's not true. Don't take me seriously here, okay? Don't write a blog about it.
Okay, now next question, Rajashekar, is first targeted towards you now. As that
Okay.
I'm also sure, and everybody across this room and Toastmasters community perceive you as a competent communicator, but you might still be aware of some improvement points in yourself as an artist, as a Toastmasters, a speaker. So we would like to know what are those.
There's one improvement point which I know from last 13 years, and I know that's an improvement point, but I don't think I can improve it just like that. It takes time. It will take time. My language is very bad, my my English language is not as good as all of you, you see. But none of you will focus on that because I'm making you laugh continuously. You don't know what are the mistakes I'm making. I go to Toastmaster meetings, I give a speech, and our counter will come and say, oh, Rashika did not have any R's. I would have had 100 R's. But they did not realize that I was just making people laugh. Grammarian will come and say, oh, Rashika did not make any mistakes. I would have made some 100 grammatical errors. But he or she did not pick up because I was just making them laugh. So I'm just covering my weaknesses with my strength right now. But parallelly also I'm working on my English language. So that is one thing which I keep working on. But as long as you focus on your strengths, I don't think audience will focus on your weaknesses. What a line! I think I should just write it somewhere and post it on Twitter, maybe. Okay, yeah. So
That's actually a
I'm
good
sorry.
line.
I know.
No, that's
Sometimes I
actually a
come
good
up with.
line. Okay. So similarly, ma'am, you have 20 years of experience in corporate, and then you shifted to being a cake artist, also taking up multiple roles in Toastmasters. So what are the areas of improvement which you find, and how do you want to leverage Toastmasters platform in that endeavor?
But for me, it has always been teamwork. This is something where I really want to work on, because yeah, in the corporate world also, it was more like it. I was not in teams as such. I was left to work alone by myself. So I didn't get the opportunity to work as a team. Coming to cake, of course, again, I'm by myself doing it. So what I am looking forward to in not just Toastmasters or through Toastmasters or wherever I go, something like a teamwork, like just now, this very meeting. I know this there are so many of you who have put this meeting together. And this is also what I've seen in Toastmasters. I learned in Toastmasters that we can work as a team. But what I feel is where I lack is with all these years of having to work by myself, for myself, or just one person, I find it difficult to work in a team. For me, my first reaction is, oh, now they want me to do this, now they want to change this. But that is exactly the challenge that I need to face and make those changes or whatever. So this is what I really want to work on, as in be it in Toastmasters. I'm sure in Toastmasters I'll get many opportunities where I will be able to work and get rid of this. Not, I mean, 100% I won't be, because most of it depends upon my nature, that I want to work alone. I don't want people telling me what to do or what not to do, or shall we do it this way, or rather have my say. So that is something that, of course, will take time. But I think if I put my heart into it, I should be able to overcome this, working and work as a team, be a team member.
Good to know this,
So,
ma'am. And definitely it will happen by time, surely.
sure.
So moving ahead now, okay, this question is like, if you could step into my shoes, what would you have asked yourself that I didn't ask you? So Toastmaster Priscilla.
Oh, okay. I think you did ask me this question about that cake artists are like compared to corporate world, and you're being a cake artist, there's such a big difference. But the reason, even after doing that, I would say there's not much of a difference. I feel the same as having to go out and work in a corporate world, because I am my own boss. I don't have to report to anyone. I don't have to worry about having to make presentations or deliver anything on time, except for the cakes that I need to deliver on time. So I can plan my work the way I want. And talking about this, like in a corporate world, we are like grilled and grilled so much that we tend to develop skills over a period of time if we are really pushed to perform.
Hmm.
And in my case, as a cake artist, you may feel that I'm not pushed to perform. But if I have to deliver and if I have to go with trends, then I am pushed to deliver, pushed to learn new skills. So that is something that I thought you did ask, but I don't think I could have answered there and then. So, I mean, there is no differentiation. We can be from any field, but in any field that we come from, we are pushed to excel and develop our skills, and that's what makes us professionals in our respective fields. That's it, Gunjan.
Wonderful. And to you, Rajsekhar, if you could step into my shoes, so what would you have asked to yourself, which I didn't ask?
I mean, pretty much you asked all the questions, right? You are doing a good job. Don't worry. Um, So, but I think one question I would have asked was, how do you deal with the ups and downs of being a comedian? Because comedy is a very tricky profession. You see, like one day there are 100 people laughing at your jokes. The next day, 100 people don't laugh at your jokes. You see, and it's a very tricky. And when people laugh at your jokes, you feel that you are on the top of the world. And when people don't laugh, you feel the entire world is falling on you. You know. So how do you deal with it? That probably is the question I would have asked myself if I were you.
So would you like to answer it right now?
Hey, hello. You only asked question, na? You did not answer. Okay, fine. So I'm still learning. I'm still learning to deal with all those ups and downs. But I think you know I realized one lesson which I learned was on stage and off stage are two different things. You know, I don't carry any of the feeling which is on stage to off stage. Like even if I do a great job or even if I do a lousy job, I'll come back and I'll be the kind of person I am. So that is how probably I'm dealing right now. There might be a better way. Probably if I find out in the future, then I'll ask myself this question again and I'll answer myself only.
Okay, so concluding this wonderful session, I would like to say that what is that one line message you would give to all the Toastmasters who are pursuing their career in their particular field, basically turning their want to turn their passion into profession. So, what one thing which would you would like to say to them, Rajshekar?
So one thing which I like to tell everybody is that don't look for something special. So this is it. Like this is how the grind will be, and this is the necessary grind. You know, whatever you are going through, this is required for you to achieve whatever you want to achieve. So whatever you are going through, just keep going. That's it. Don't stop.
Hmm.
Be consistent. Keep going. That's it. This is something which I want to tell. Don't look for something special moments. Our path is not made of special moments. You know, whether it is special or not, it is for others to judge. Oh, that guy is a special person. But you don't judge yourself. You just keep going. Keep going through
Hmm.
whatever you're going through. That's it.
Right.
I know this is not one line. I'm sorry, but you can put it in one line. I'm bad at language. You know.
No, no, no. It's proper. It explained the crux properly. And what would you like to say, Toastmaster Priscilla?
Well, I would say if it is your passion, then go for it. There's no point doing something that you don't like. So make your passion your work, make your work your passion, and you're going to love it. You will not look at it as work, but you will look at it as something like that you love and you would want to do. So that's my take.
Wonderful. I'm sure there are so many lot of takeaways from this session, and so many takeaways from me for me as well. I got to learn many new things and wonderful things from you both. Thank you so much, Rajshekar and Priscilla. Now the stage is open to audience. The audience members, if they want to ask anything to our speakers, you can put up in the chat box. And by that time, we have received some questions in the registration link by few Toastmasters that I would like to present in front of you. Uh, for out of you both, whoever wishes to answer this, you may answer. For someone who is shy at speaking up and wants to be good at it, and make my words heard, what can I do to improve? Sandeep V has asked this question. Rajshekar, you can go.
Hey, what? Like every time you're picking on me only. What, Gunjan? This is like this is very sad. Yeah. I think I would like to ask Priscilla. Priscilla, if I were you, how would you answer this question? Okay, no, I'll only answer. Don't worry. So, uh, so I think even if you're a shy person, um, I'm sure there are a lot of thoughts in your head, right? So even an introvert
Hmm.
under right circumstances can open up and speak to somebody for hours together. So you just have to bring on those thoughts. What is that you want to tell people? And initially it will be tough, obviously, because if you're a shy person, going in front of the audience and performing or speaking is a tough thing. But that should not stop you from expressing what you feel about life and different experiences. Because if you don't speak up, we will miss the kind of person you are. So we want you to know what kind of person you are. So even if you're a shy person, come and speak shyly only. It's fine. We will understand, but you have to speak. There's this one wonderful comedian called Mitch Hedberg. Mitch Hedberg, unfortunately, he died at a young age of 35. But when he was alive, so he was considered the best comedian in the world. But you know what? That guy cannot even look at the audience. He would always wear goggles. You could see his mic shivering in his hands. His hands are shivering. He's just looking down and performing for 1 hour. He is considered one of the greatest comedians at that time. So the nervousness, the fear, the scare, all these things did not stop Mitch Hedberg from being the greatest comedian in the world. You just have to come here and speak. That's it. So just go for it. And slowly there will be people who will help you.
I hope Mr. Sandeep would have got his answer to this.
Or I'll just give him his number. I'll just talk to him and I'll just, bring him to the comedy circuit and make him perform. Okay, I won't do that. I'm sorry. I'll try to be humble.
The next question, I feel Toastmaster Priscilla would answer it very well, because as you have said that you learned the cake designing, you have not attended any classes. It's a self-paced learning. So
Yes.
Toastmaster Ramesh Mudigiri is asking that how does self-paced learning work? So,
Well, for me as a cake artist, um, you definitely need to know the basics. Okay. Once you learn the basics, which you can do by having to go for any cake classes or any demos which are happening, just to learn the basics, or go for a hands-on experience class, a workshop, a hands-on workshop. And from there, you start developing on that. You need to do a lot of practice, because unless and until you practice that, it's not going to work for you. You're not going to develop any skills. And when we're talking about self learning, it is more to do with the trends. So you are going to go develop a skill to match the trends, at least when it comes to cake decorating. I think even otherwise, if there's something happening in computers, I don't know much about computers, but whatever is the latest, everybody wants to jump into that and learn that. And that's how you would upgrade yourself. Of course, once you have done with the skills, where you practice and develop the skills, you can go in for a test. It's as good as like when you start learning something, you prepare yourself and you don't go for a test, but you know it for yourself, but if you're looking at some kind of a certification, you would go for a test. You would go and grade yourself. And for me, I claim myself as a self-acclaimed professional cake artist, is because I know the number of hours I've put into decorating cakes. Even a new fresh person coming out from the culinary industry would not have that much experience, would not have those skills. And that is why I can say that having to develop your skills is self learning, self-paced learning, what you would call it, is definitely to meet the demands, so you would take up a skill. Suppose if you are in a profession and you want to switch to another profession, what would you do? You would first get to know about the profession, learn for yourself, see for yourself whether you want to really do it, or it's just some kind of a fantasy that you just want to switch from this to that. So you would give yourself time, and that's when you would do this self-learning and then move on to doing it as a certification. I hope that answers.
yes. Due to constraint of time, we'll just take one more question.
And
Yes,
Toastmaster
Anuj.
Gunjan, sorry for interruption. As a host, I have been receiving two questions from our guests.
Okay.
So maybe I'll just put them forward on your
Yes,
behalf,
yes,
if you allow.
yes, yes.
Thank you so much.
Surely.
The first question is from Toastmaster Arvind Babu, and it is directed to Toastmaster Priscilla. So Toastmaster Arvind asks, as I know you're helping me and others in the club as VP Education and involving others into the club meetings, contest, cake work, house responsibilities, but always you're doing it with your smile. So how do you manage time and maintaining smile? Toastmaster Priscilla.
Well, as I said before, if you really want to do it from your heart, you will make time for everything. The challenge is there. At home, I can manage things, but I cannot be telling everybody, wait a minute, I'm frying fish, I'll get back to you. So that's when I tell them, I'll get back to you in 5 minutes, but I don't have to tell them that, give me time for this. And to make time, put it down. Like my day, I know that I have to bake cakes today. I put 2 hours towards baking cakes. Then I take a break. And that would be come sit, do some Toastmaster work, check on the clubs, how they are doing, check on any mentee if they need anything. Or if somebody has asked me, I'll tell them, okay, I'm free now. Let's sit. We can do this together. Or I know that I'm free at 7 p.m. I think that's what I've committed to my members to help them with getting their free path. So I sent out a message. I know I'm free at 7. My club members need this. I sent out a message saying at 7, I'm free. Anybody who's free and wants to uh, avail the free path, let's sit together. I'll send you the Zoom link. We'll finish it. So it's all about making that decision that you want to do, whether it be bake a cake or you want to make time for your mentee, you want to make time for your family. It's all about you consciously making time for all the things that you want to do.
Thank you, Toastmaster Priscilla, for answering that question so wonderfully. I'm sure Toastmaster Arvind has got his answer. The next question is from Toastmaster Krishnakant, and it is directed to Toastmaster Rajshekhar. So Rajshekhar, KK says, as an artist, what is your take on artists are born, not made? And he further describes his question saying, many a times we hear people joining course to learn stand-up comedy. Can someone learn and master humor, or there should be a natural skill in them in order to do that?
First of all, I think nobody ever said that artists are born not made. This is just a creation of KK only. Huh? They said leaders are born not made. Bakwas fellow. Now he's twisting it to suit for artists are not born. Okay, fine, whatever. So I think I'll answer the question whether can somebody learn humor. So so whatever we are like, we are forced to learn a lot of things when we are in school, right? Like even though I don't like science, but you have to learn science. Now I don't want to learn science. The only time when I wanted to learn science was when I watched Christopher Nolan movies, because I don't understand anything. So I go back and learn science. So I think all of us here now, as a grown-ups, we will always try to learn something which we are interested in, right? So let's say if you are interested in learning how to bake cakes, then you already have skill or whatever, that appetite for that. So you don't have to worry whether you suit for it or not. You just have to ask yourself, am I interested enough to last long enough to learn all the essential skills? That's it. So that is the only thing. The first point, if you're interested in humor, then I think you can learn humor. If you're interested in cricket, you can learn cricket. If you're interested in badminton, you can learn badminton. So it depends on your interest actually. And can you maintain that interest levels till you learn enough to become a professional? So that is how you have to look at it. I don't know whether artists are born or made. Talent, I think, is an overrated term. There's a book called Talent is Overrated. A talent goes for a toss with first failure. Passion goes for a toss with first failure. What keeps somebody going is the commitment. How committed you are to what you are about to do. Commitment is the most important thing. So if you are interested in something, go ahead and learn. And I'm sure you can learn. So that's my take.
Thank you, Toastmaster Rajshekhar, and I hand over the stage to Gunjan. Over to you, Gunjan.
All right. I hope we have answered the questions of the members very aptly. And I would like to thank both our guests, Toastmaster Priscilla as well as Toastmaster Rajshekhar, for taking out time, especially on your day off. Rajshekhar, you took out time and joined our episode. And thank you very much. That was a very insightful and inspirational talk which we had. And before closing the meeting, I would like to introduce you to our team, a team of episode 3, a wonderful team without which this episode won't be done so smoothly right from the beginning, right from the promotions to this stage. Uh, Firstly, I would like to thank Toastmaster Vaishnavi, who is the episode owner, who took up the role of episode owner and forming, sitting with, having, uh, connecting meetings with Priscilla and Rajshekhar. Would like to thank her. Nextly, I would like to thank Toastmaster Shravani for being the tech master, also the designer for the episode 3. So the posters which you have seen on social medias and WhatsApp, the designer is Toastmaster Shravani, and right now managing the tech master role so aptly, spotlighting and uh, the chat, coordinating with everything. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Toastmaster Shravani. I would like to thank Toastmaster Pragya for being the season owner for the Vantage Point Season 1. Thank you so much for being a guiding master for us at every episode and in this episode as well. And last but not the least, I would like to thank Toastmaster Anuj, the PR chair of Division EFGHN, of being always supportive to each and every member in our PR team, and motivating us and guiding us all through the way. Thank you so much, Toastmaster Anuj. And with this, I would like to conclude this episode 3 of Vantage Point with Toastmasters and artists, and thanking both of you, Rajshekhar and Priscilla ma'am. Thank you so much for joining. The
Thank you
stage
so
is
much.
open now for an informal chat.
Thank you, Gunjan. And before Rajshekhar and Toastmaster Prasla leave us, if they are in case, because I know it, I have bribed Rajshekhar a lot to come here on Monday. And the barista coffee and the other goodies are to be sent. Anuj will take care of that, I'm sure.
Just transfer 2,000 rupees to my Google Pay number.
We have Club Growth Chair Nikita
that
Bhatia who will do that.
that's under Nikita Bhatia. Nikita, please take care of that.
Why
With this,
me?
I
And
would,
she's also your mentor, mentee, Rajshekhar.
as a club growth director, we are trying to grow the club. So you are the club growth director.
No, I'm not the club grow director, please.
So with this, I would really thank Toastmaster Priscilla, who's joining us from Kuwait all the way, and Toastmaster Rajshekhar taking out time on his extremely busy schedules for us. That's been a great learning. And I would also I would also like to thank few of the guests who are joining us from nations across. We have FA with us, and we have Tessie, Moni Boss, Nameti, and Mohammed is from your Arvind Babu. So there we have so many guests coming in, joining in. I really hope that you loved this particular episode, especially for people who feel that they cannot convert their passion into profession. We have examples in front of you who have learned a lot from Toastmasters. And a special thanks to Kazetan, who is Toastmaster Priscilla's husband, and he's also the division director over there. If I'm not wrong, he's the division director there. And taking out that much time, we have been seeing a lot of his videos online, on Toastmaster pages with all the education sessions he keeps doing. So thank you for that. And please do write your feedback on the chats. It will be great help for letting us know as to what did you like about the sessions and whether they were of some help to you or not. So if you can write your reviews on the chat boxes, it will be great support to all of us as a team. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us today. So So now
Thank
the
you
floor
so
is
much,
open for
everyone.
any chats, if any chats or conversations, and we would for sure, if the guests can actually unmute and also let us know how they liked. Kazitan, how did you like listening to Priscilla every time? When Priscilla was telling that, I don't like anybody telling me what to do, Kazitan was like, I can't tell her. How can somebody